Welcome to the Full-Time FBA Show. In each episode, it's our goal to help you turn part-time hours into a full-time income selling almost anything on Amazon. And now, your hosts of the show, Stephen and Rebecca Smotherman.
Hello there, and welcome to another episode of the Full-Time FBA Show. We are on episode number 224 today, and we're going to be talking about how to deal with Amazon's high price error alerts. Very careful saying that because it's kind of hard to say all those R's. High price error alert. Anyway, here to talk with me about this topic is my husband and co-host, my business partner, Stephen Smotherman. Welcome to the show, Stephen.
You know, this is not a fun topic to talk about, high price alerts, but we've got some ideas on how to fix it and can't wait to share it with you today.
Maybe you've seen this subject line from Amazon before in an email. Your listings are deactivated for potential pricing error. Just seeing that phrase can cause me to lose my mind. I did not have a high price error. I intentionally priced it that high. But then I remind myself that there are some steps I can take to possibly fix this potential error, quote unquote, and get my listings reactivated once again. But before we jump into how to fix this issue, let's discuss why Amazon has set up this alert in the first place.
Yeah, you've probably heard it before on this podcast and other places, but Amazon basically prides itself that they are the most customer-centric company in the world, and that earning customer trust is the number one goal in every single thing that they do. And so that's what made basically Amazon the number one place to buy and sell online. So Amazon knows that low prices are one of the best ways to gain customer trust and loyalty, and they want to be sure that our products, both yours and my products, they are not priced too high, because those high prices could hurt the trust that Amazon has created with the customers. You can read more about this high pricing and Amazon's focus on being the best price online and anywhere else at Amazon's fair pricing policy. We'll post a link in the show notes of that if you want to read through it, fulltimefba.com/224. But Amazon has an algorithm set up to deactivate your listing and notify you if they think that your prices are too high, and even if they are too low. Yes, that's actually possible. Amazon doesn't want your prices to be low, but there are a few instances when that happens. So in Amazon's opinion, they are protecting you from pricing too low, but mainly for being priced too high.
Low price alerts are super rare, but they do happen. In this episode, we're going to be concentrating on fixing high price alerts. So to be clear, in all of the high pricing error situations we're discussing, we are not talking about a high pricing error on items where you are literally price gouging. If you are selling an essential item during a national emergency or possibly even a state or local emergency for a price that's around 10% higher than its usual price, that can be considered price gouging. So be careful when you're dealing with selling essential items. This came up in the pandemic. Back in 2020, selling hand sanitizer on Amazon for a premium price was considered price gouging and seller accounts were shut down. Back then, we at Full-Time FBA were warning Amazon sellers to stay 100% away from reselling anything considered essential, because having that markup on your inventory that you usually need to make a profit could get you in trouble for price gouging. Sure, you might have been able to sell those items back then for a nice profit in the short term, but that is just not worth the risk of losing your account. And it's also not cool to be profiting off of people's emergencies.
Exactly. And also to be clear, selling popular toy items on Amazon at a price that brings you 1,000% ROI is not price gouging. That toy is not an essential item and it's not being sold during an emergency. Yes, some frustrated buyers last December might have gotten mad that they waited too long to buy the super popular toy and that the prices on Amazon were super inflated, and they might even accuse us of price gouging, but that is not the case. That's just simple supply and demand, so just understand that. Okay, but what if you're selling on Amazon, found a great normal item, priced it competitively, and for some reason Amazon hits you with a high price alert? Here are the steps that you can take to deal with this issue.
So the first thing you want to do is pretty simple. You just want to double check your price. When Amazon first introduced the potential pricing error flag a few years ago, it was actually pretty accurate in assessing errors. Maybe I meant to price an item at $49.99 and instead I accidentally priced it at $449.99. You know, that whole case of like fat fingers as you're typing something in.
Are you calling me fat?
Well,
Just kidding.
I was talking about my fingers. Okay, so when Amazon sees that, they know what the list price of that item is, and they suspect, based on the pricing history of that particular item, that my $449.99 price was a mistake, and they were right. So to protect customer trust and to help me with my error, Amazon would then deactivate my listing so that my price of $449.99 would not be seen with the other competing sellers priced around $49.99. I would then get the pricing alert, I'd go into my inventory, and I could correct the pricing mistake, which would then make the listing to become active again at the correct price. And so this might be what happened to you. So all you need to do is just go double check your price and make sure that if you've priced it way too high accidentally, that you reprice it. And if you need help with how to reprice, we'll put some links in the show notes for this episode for how to manually reprice your inventory. And that's going to be at fulltimefba.com/224 for this episode.
But what happens if your price is actually exactly what you want the price to be and is not far off from your competition's price? What do you do then? Well, there's several different possible fixes to the situation. Some will work, some won't. But we want to teach you the possible ways that you might be able to get this issue fixed. Fix number 1 was to double check your price. Fix number 2, add a minimum and maximum price to your product in Seller Central. So to show Amazon that your prices are not a mistake, but you're intentionally pricing it the way they are, you can go to your price alerts page or your managed pricing page in Seller Central. We'll give you that link in the show notes. And then enter in your minimum prices and your maximum prices of the ASIN with the price alert. Obviously, make sure your sales price is between your minimum and max, and save your changes to see if the pricing error disappears. You might have to wait 15 minutes, because that's what Amazon usually says, to wait to see if those changes go into effect. Again, we'll put the links to the price alerts page, the managed pricing page, in the show notes for this episode, fulltimefba.com/224. Sometimes adding a minimum and maximum price will cause the pricing alert to disappear for good, but sometimes it'll come back again, maybe even after a few hours. So what's the next thing we can do to try to fix this issue?
So the next thing you want to do, and this might surprise you because, again, it's very simple, is just alter your price just a little bit. Just tweak your price a little bit. So if you just move your price down a little bit lower than where you have it right now, that might cause the pricing alert to disappear. You just check the product page of that item on Amazon and look at the current low prices of your competition. Maybe the prices of the item are a lot lower now than when you first sent that inventory to Amazon, and it's obvious that nobody's going to buy that item at your higher price when your competition is priced significantly lower than you. And you might not want to lower your price to match theirs yet, but if you just tweak your price to be lower than what you have it right now, that might at least remove the pricing alert. Don't forget to update your min and max prices if you lower your price, just to make sure that you have your price set in between those in that range. You don't want your current price to be lower than your current minimum. So having a price outside of that min and max prices is definitely not going to fix the situation.
Okay, so what if you've done all of this that we've talked about and the issue is still not fixed? I mean, what happens if your price is actually below the lowest price of your competition? I mean, you're getting your listing deactivated as a, quote, high price alert at a price that's actually lower than your competition's higher price that does not have their listing deactivated. What's going on here, Amazon? This high price alert has to be an error, right? So the next thing to do is to reach out and get some help. Open up a support ticket with Amazon Seller Central Rep. You see, Amazon does not only use the pricing history of that item when it comes to a high price alert algorithm, but they also incorporate your pricing history. So if this is a replan or an item you've sold in the past before, and you sold it before at a lower price, then Amazon's algorithm might remember that and might think that your price is too high because of how you previously priced it at. So you can open up a support ticket with Amazon, let them know that the current sellers of that ASIN are all selling around that certain price, and that your low price that was deactivated for being high is actually comparable, it's competitive with the current low prices. I even like to take a screenshot of the lowest price competition to show that Seller Central Rep that my price fits right in with everyone else's low price. When you're dealing with Seller Central, always make things as easy as possible on them, so I like to include screenshots.
So if you have a legit reason why you're charging more for an item, that Amazon is saying is too high, then you can also give the Seller Central rep your reasons for that. Legit reasons might include that your supplier raised their prices, or that your shipping costs from your supplier have increased, or any other real reason for why you are charging more for your product. Just be honest with your reasons and don't just make something up and lie to them as a made-up excuse. And then when the Amazon rep replies, they will most likely send you a copy-paste list of links for possible ways to fix the repricing error. Do your due diligence with each suggestion that Amazon gives you. In other words, follow those links, read the pages, and make sure you've done whatever they suggest to fix the issue. But then what happens if you open a ticket with seller support, you follow all of their suggested solutions, and the issue is still not fixed?
Yeah, it can be pretty frustrating when you open a ticket with Amazon Seller Central and the rep just gives you a copy and paste reply and does not really understand what is really going on. At this point, it's time to reply to the Seller Central rep with 7 magic words. Please escalate this case to your supervisor. Use these words exactly, word for word. Please escalate this case to your supervisor.
This is when you're going to feel like a Karen this is like the, I want to talk to a manager type thing, but it really works and it really is necessary sometimes.
Yeah, these 7 words, they have the power to make mountains move. Okay, that's an exaggeration, but these words will help you finally get to a solution, and that's why we call them magic words. In fact, if you want more magic words to effectively communicate with Amazon, go to fulltimefba.com/magic words, and we'll share all of the Seller Central magic words that can help you get what you need across to an Amazon Seller Central rep and get whatever issue needs to be fixed. So you've asked Amazon Seller Central rep to escalate the case to the supervisor. Here is what happens next. Most of the time, the supervisor will actually know how to better help you, give you better suggestions, or just fix the problem altogether. And other times, the Seller Central rep supervisor will not be much help. But at least with each step, you're increasing your chances of getting this issue solved.
And we know that sometimes dealing with Amazon seller support can be frustrating, but we really want you to remember that these reps and supervisors are people, and most of them are trying to do their best to serve you. They're under a lot of pressure, and they have quotas, and they're trying to help as many cases as possible. And their work is graded as much because of their speed as it is on its effectiveness. And so in your interactions with these Seller Central reps, treat them with respect. Even though the situation might not make sense, even though sometimes they're not as helpful as you hoped, just take some deep breaths and then move on to the last suggestion to fix the problem.
Yeah, so we're finally here. The last step, the last-ditch effort to fix this issue, and here's what to do. It's very possible the issue has nothing to do with your price, but is actually your MSKU has a glitch. And don't worry, we'll tell you how to fix it. Sometimes no matter how low you price your item, even at taking like a massive loss, you still can't get the high price alert to go away. So when this happens, one strategy that some Amazon sellers have found helpful is this. Number 1, create a removal order for your high-priced alert inventory. Number 2, once all of your high-price alert inventory has been returned to you, close and delete the listing in your Amazon inventory. And number 3, send that inventory back to Amazon on a brand new MSKU. So do not click replenish your inventory. Do not send the exact same item under the exact same MSKU, but a brand new MSKU. And so if you send it under the old one, you're just going to have that pricing error waiting for you by the time that stuff gets back to Amazon. So send it to Amazon under a new MSKU. And for some Amazon sellers, there's just a glitch connected to the old MSKU, and sending it the same inventory on a new MSKU, it's going to solve the problem. It's worked for us before, and it could possibly work for you. Again, it's not a 100% surefire method, but it works for many sellers, including us.
Okay, so what do we do if we've tried all of these fixes and there's still the issue of a high price alert and the related inventory just stays deactivated? At this point, there's really only one thing to do: lower your price and move on. I know this isn't the answer you might be hoping for, but in all honesty, if you've taken the time to take all of the steps we've talked about in this podcast episode to fix this situation and none of that is working, there really is nothing left that you can do. And you just need to realize that in life, sometimes things will go wrong and they won't make sense. And if you expect it to happen from time to time, you're actually going to be able to roll through these steps quickly and transfer your energy and focus to something more productive. In fact, sometimes if I see a pricing alert on an inventory item I simply don't want to deal with, I might even just skip straight to lowering my price until the alert disappears. It just depends on the situation. Sometimes just doing that and focusing instead on other areas of my business is just a better use of my time. There's a lot of factors that go into that with the price and the number of items and all of that. But on the higher ticket items, I'll do everything in my power to go through the steps we've outlined for you today just to get the issue fixed.
So that's how we deal with high price alerts. And now you have some knowledge and some steps of what to do if this happens to you. I want to remind you before we head out that the day this episode drops, January 22nd, we are starting our Amazon Income Accelerator workshop. It's free. It's 5 days of free training about how you can make a full-time income realistically this year selling on Amazon. So you can sign up fulltimefba.com/workshop. If you're listening to this in the future sometime, how is the future? Is everything okay? And you can go to the link fulltimefba.com/replays and watch the replays of this workshop.
Thank you so much for joining us for this episode of the Full-Time FBA Show. As a reminder, we always have the links that we've mentioned for you in our show notes for this episode at fulltimefba.com/224 because we're on episode number 224.
And next week on the Full-Time FBA Show, we're going to answer the question, are done-for-you automated Amazon agencies a scam? They sound really awesome. Are they a scam? We'll talk about that next week on the Full-Time FBA Show.
That's all for this episode of the Full-Time FBA Show. So head over to fulltimefba.com/podcast, where you'll find the show notes and links from this episode. While you're there, subscribe to our newsletter where you'll get several free downloads of our popular and helpful Amazon FBA resources. Now, take action on what you've learned today so you can find success at turning part-time hours into a full-time income with Amazon FBA.